watch this. Watch this.
Nadia.
And it is a perfect kick.
Mary Lou.
What a gymnast!
Gymnastics' greatest stars in their greatest moments. Kathy Rigby, Kurt Thomas, Bart Connor.
Maybe a gold medal.
Now 3 decades of gymnastics history can be yours on home video. To order, call 1-800-4ABC-VCR. Only $24.98 plus $3 shipping. Strike out to score more.
I just can't seem to find the pocket.
Call 1-800-4ABC-VCR and let Bo Burton's instructional home video, Score More, help you solve your bowling problems.
Here's what the pros do.
Learn Bo's valuable tips on performance, practice techniques, body conditioning, and equipment selection, and score more. Only $24.98 plus $3 shipping. To order Bo's home video, call 1-800-4ABC-VCR.
Wow, a 7-10 split.
He's going for his second consecutive 300 game. There it goes. That 12th ball. That 12th ball. 12 in a row. 2 in a row. How do you like that?
Pete McCordick, bowling immortality within his grasp. One more strike.
All right, there it is.
We have it!
One to go for 100,000 smackers.
Oh, yeah!
We've come to the National Bowling Hall of Fame and Museum in St. Louis. What better place to experience the great events and meet the stars of the game? As you enter, watch out for flying objects. Massive 10 pins float above the visitors, providing an exciting introduction to this action museum. Hello, I'm Chris Schenkel. This is the place where men and women of bowling's elite are still bowling strikes, still striving for perfection. Now, bowling as we know it is called 10 pins, but around the world there are many variations to the game.
The ancient game of Dutch 9 pins is still popular today. The game was banned in the colonies due to gambling aspects. To get around that law, they added a 10th pin, 10 pins. In Edinburgh, Scotland, there's a version of the sport that is a lot of fun if you have a stomach for it. In the French game of Espagnol, 8 pins must be brought down by using a ball and a pin together. Duck pins, a game popular on the East Coast, has a 5-inch ball and 10 lively 9-inch pins. Each player gets 3 shots to make a spare. In New England, there's a game played nowhere else. Candle pins. A unique feature is that the knockdown pins stay on the deck, so a bowler has to throw through the trash on his spare shots, making every shot different. High scores are rare.
Of all the variations of the game, 10 pins, as we know, is by far the most popular. We all enjoy the game in plush modern recreation centers with the ultimate state-of-the-art conveniences. But the bowling alleys of yesterday were a far cry from today's.
In the little towns of the 19th century, the bowling alley might be located just down the road from the livery stable and the sheriff's office. It was an unregulated sport, with the weight and size of balls and pins varying from city to city, until 1895, when the American Bowling Congress was formed to standardize the rules. Sanctioned leagues were formed, many in centers with as few as 4 lanes.
With me now, my television colleague, Hall of Famer Nelson Burton. Bo, what were the conditions of the lanes in that era?
Chris, in the 1930s and the 1940s, bowling was much different than we have it today. There was no air conditioning. There were pin boys instead of automatic pin setters. There was a towel that was used by everyone. There were no hand dryers. Chalk was used by everyone to dry their hands. And of course, the infamous spittoon was always around. Now, the lanes were coated with a surface coating called shellac. Shellac was very soft, pliable coating, and it grooved or tracked towards the pocket area. So a player to be successful had to play in that groove to hit the pocket and score well. Hence, not many left-handers had success in the 1930s and 40s. The bowling ball was a hard rubber ball, and most of them were two-finger grips for accuracy. And finally, the bowling pins. Hard rock maple pins, all wood with flat bottoms, were very difficult to knock down, and the players often called these logs.
And one of the stars of that era was Joe Falcaro.
Joe was national match game champion from 1929 to 1933. He also averaged 196 in 26 years of ABC tournament play.
In 1942, the Bowling Writers Association of America initiated an award proclaiming the Bowler of the Year.
The first recipient was Johnny Crimmins. He won the inaugural All-Star Tournament in 1941, a grueling tournament to determine the national champion. Ned Day was the Bowler of the Year in 43 and 44, a stylist who used the popular two-finger grip of the times. Ned toured the nation, taking on all comers in head-to-head matches. In 1959, he came out of retirement for one televised match which he won. The smooth style and concentration of Buddy Bomar were factors as he took the 44 All-Star. Bomar captured 38 tournaments in all, but he was best known among bowlers as a crafty opponent in after-hours matches.
And here's another bowling legend, Andy Verapapa. He was a clown, he was a showman. He could do everything with not only one bowling ball, but two. Despite his clowning around, he was a great champion, having won the national championship in both 1946 and 47. Wherever he went, the fans loved to watch him perform.
Andy, the 1948 Bowler of the Year, loved crowds. Here is the Verapapa formula for making the dreaded 4-6-7-10 split. Of course, it helps to be ambidextrous. Andy wanted the ABC to make this shot legal. Andy called this his drop kick shot because sometimes it dropped into the gutter. Watch the ball roll from the right-hand corner to the left. If you ever get the 4, 7, 8, 9, 10, here's how to make it. This is Andy's carom shot. Now Andy's mache shot, from the right to the left gutter and back to the number 10 pin. Here's Andy's bank shot. This Andy called the Sunday driver. One ball rolls down the lane at a leisurely pace. Then there's a guy in a hurry to get to the ball game. They both reach their destination. Bowling was Andy's life.
I liked bowling, and I started to bowl, and I became so enthused on bowling that when I was a butcher boy, when I was at 13 or 14 years old, I used to pick up a piece of ice on the sidewalk and develop rhythm because I'm intrigued with rhythm in bowling.
Nelson Burton Sr., father of my TV partner Bo, was one of the most feared match game opponents of the 1930s and 40s when competition was on a personal man-to-man basis. Nellie, a fighter, would take on a match at any time of day or night.
Well, Ned Day was one of my foremost opponents, but also he was a good friend of mine, and we bowled some doubles matches. In fact, when there was a tournament in St. Louis one year, it was about 2 o'clock in the morning and the phone rang, and Ned Day was on the phone, wanted me to come over and bowl a match game against a couple of Chicago bowlers. I can't remember exactly who they were at the time. And they had been bowling real good, and they thought they could beat anybody, so I got out of bed and went on over there and bowled with Ned, and we did all right.
In the 1950s, the sport of bowling was undergoing a major change. Refrigeration or air conditioning was now in bowling centers. Lacquer was now the standard on the lanes. And oils or conditioners were manufactured to match that lacquer to give you a very bowlable surface. The hard rubber ball was still in, but the 3-finger grip was now standard. And many of the top stars used a full fingertip grip all the way around the ball to get more power. Now the stroker was in, or the finesse player, and nobody epitomizes the finesse player more than Tom Hennessy.
Tom's perfect delivery paid off. He won the ABC Masters tourney in 1958 and paired with Don Carter to take the national doubles title twice.
This section of the hall is devoted to the great moments in bowling, like this standing tribute to Don Carter, Mr. Bowling, overwhelmingly dominant in the 50s and 60s, voted Bowler of the Year 6 times. He had an unorthodox style that no instructor would ever try to teach.
With his unique bent elbow delivery, Carter crept up to the foul line to topple enough strikes to win the All-Star 4 times. Look how he curled his pinky. He won 5 World's Invitationals as well as 6 PBA titles. In 1970, the Bowling Writers Association voted Carter the greatest bowler in history. Did Don think his style was unorthodox?
My style is somewhat unusual, although I don't think it's unorthodox. I have sound reasoning for everything that I do, mainly due to the fact that I have my arm in a bent position here throughout my swing is called unusual, and therefore I have to get out much lower to the foul line when I release the ball. I think the little finger is very important in the grip. In my particular case, I have the little finger doubled under here. It gives me a much more secure grip on the feeling, on the ball, and also it keeps me from overturning the ball.
Don, if you would say one thing as we look in retrospect to the greatest bowling career of all times, how would you capsulize your career and what you would want to tell people that what Don Carter not only did in the sport, but what he left behind?
Well, I don't know, Bo. I think I've been very lucky. When I bowled, I didn't get rewarded. I got rewarded later, meeting good people and putting the bowling centers together. But I think dedication is the one word. I think you really have to be dedicated. Many parties I passed up, and when I'd finish, I'd go back to the hotel and rest and relax. And I think you really have to be dedicated and practice at your skill.
Well, with the 60s approaching, there were several contributions that aided in the popularity of bowling.
Well, you're right, Chris, and probably the biggest one was the automatic pin setter. We no longer had pin boys who would harass the bowlers sometimes, or even set the pin slowly, or not even show up. Automatic pin setters made bowling available for anyone at any time. That brought a lot of women into the sport as bowling lanes were modernized. Daytime leagues became available, and of course, to take care of the little children those women brought into the bowling centers, there were nurseries. Bowling was truly a sport for everyone in the 60s. And Chris, of course, in the 1960s, in came your expertise.
Right, and even before that, Bo, in the 50s, I was fortunate to be one of the commentators on the syndicated film series, Championship Bowling. This series, along with other spin-off shows, followed by network shows like Jackpot Bowling, Make That Spare. So with all of these television shows, the stars that they were reading about now became household names.
Carmen Salvino, a charter member of the PBA, has won 19 PBA tournaments. The colorful Hall of Famer now competes on both the regular Pro Tour and in senior events. No athlete was ever more determined to win than Buzz Fazio, one of the game's great team captains. Fazio captured the ABC Masters in 1955, and 13 years later he finished second at age 60. Lou Campi adapted his bowling style from his years of playing the Italian game of bocce, in which the player finishes with his right foot forward, even though right-handed. Campi was known as wrong-foot because of his awkward-looking delivery. The man with the peekaboo style is Ray Bluth, Masters Tournament champion in 1959 and 4 times national doubles titleist with Dick Weber. He was a member of the famous team that set a record that may stand forever.
March 12, 1958, our team bowled the world's record, which is still the world's record, of 38.58. I was always getting on Tommy, teasing Tommy Hennessy quite a bit. And the second game, Tom shot 300, so Tommy was getting on me. He said, come on, Ray, let's get with it here. So I produced a 300 the third game, and Tom looked at me and said, I can never get ahead of you.
Minneapolis, Minnesota was the site of the 17th annual BPAA All-Star Tournament, the forerunner of today's United States Open. That year, 1958, was a year of many firsts for the event. It was the first time it was moved from its original Chicago home. 24 lanes had to be constructed, and the Minneapolis National Guard Armory, a Herculean task. To complicate matters further, They used automatic pin setters for the first time. They too had to be installed. And in another historic first, the finals of the tournament were shown on national television. What a wonderful sight. 24 automatic pin setters setting the pins in unison to kick off the tournament. The only thing that didn't change was the men's winner. Don Carter, Mr. Bowling, won his 4th All-Star Championship. And who was the queen of bowling? Marion Ladewig, 9-time Woman Bowler of the Year. This lovely lady from Grand Rapids, Michigan, won her 8th All-Star crown in 1963 and the 1960 LPBA National Championship.
Yes, Marion Ladewig deserves this prominent place in bowling's Hall of Fame. You know, success in another sport has often prepared individuals for success in bowling careers, like Marion. She was a semi-pro softball shortstop. Don Carter, professional baseball pitcher in South Carolina. Hall of Famer Ed Lubanski had a successful career in the St. Louis Browns organization as a pitcher. Ed also had the distinction of being the only bowler to ever bowl perfect 300 games on television back-to-back.
Now the question is, can Lubanski do it? Can he do it? He has now got 21 strikes in a row. Can he get those 3 more? Here it is. How does it look, Eddie? He's there again. Yes, sir. Right up and to it. That is 22 in a row, the 10th one this game, and he's going for his 2nd consecutive 300 game, and he's really working on it. What a show this man is putting on this evening. I've never seen anything like it, and believe me, I've seen a lot of matches, and I've bowled in a lot of matches, but I've never seen anything like this. There it is. He's going after the 11th. The 11th. 2 strikes away. Here he is. He's going again. How does it look? He's there. He's in. Yes, sir. No stopping that Eddie tonight. Wow-wee. What a match this has turned out to be. This boy is just, well, he's out of his head tonight. Wow-wee. He just can't stop him. I mean, he has set more records, and he is continuing to set records. And here he is with a 12th and final ball. Let's watch it. Let's not say one word. There it goes. That 12th ball. That 12th ball. 2 in a row. 2 in a row. How do you like that? Now, you've seen something on television that you may never see again in your life.
The Professional Bowlers Association was founded in 1958 when Akron attorney Eddie Elias called together 33 professional bowlers to a meeting in Syracuse, New York. Each was asked to put up $50 as seed money. Well, the rest is history. We at ABC Sports began televising the Professional Bowlers Tour in 1962. And what better name or bowler to have as Bowler of the Year than Dick Weber?
Well, 1962 was a great year for me because I won a few titles with the Professional Bowler Association. I won the big daddy of them all, the All-Star at that time, which is now the U.S. Open. And the All-Star was the World Series of bowling then, more or less. And I just happened to get into the finals, snuck in, and I bowled real well in the finals, and it was one of the finest tournaments that I ever bowled. So I just chalk that up as a thrill and a great honor.
On the walls of this room, every man elected to the American Bowling Congress Hall of Fame is honored by a plaque and a listing of his achievements. A plaque of special significance to me is that of Billy Waylow, superb bowler, wonderful gentleman, and a colleague for 11 years until his untimely death in 1974. Billy helped set standards on our Professional Bowlers Tour telecasts that has helped make it a long-lasting success.
He won the Masters tournament twice. He won the 1959 All-Star and 5 ABC tournament titles.
The most treasured honor among professional bowlers is to win the Triple Crown. Billy Hardwick was the first professional to win all 3. He won the PBA National 1963, the Firestone Tournament of Champions 1965, and then he accomplished the feat, the Triple Crown, by winning the 1969 United States Open.
Billy won 17 PBA titles in all, despite the fact that he suffered from rheumatoid arthritis during much of his career.
The first 300 game on the Professional Bowlers Tour telecast was bowled by Jack Biondolillo 1967 on the Firestone Tournament of Champions.
Boy, is it quiet in here. But not now. Number 10. All right. What a beautiful ball that was. Oh, has this man got the control going for him today? 10 in a row.
All right, here's slow motion stop action here.
Let's watch Jack here in slow motion. Look at this deliberate.
The reaction.
All the way in reaction on that ball. Look at this. Look at this. Down on his knees.
Now we're back
Here we
live.
go.
Back live.
Number 11. Hold it, Jack. All right. Number 11.
All right.
In a row.
Here we are.
One more ball, ladies and gentlemen, for $10,000. The first in ABC history and Pro Bowlers Tour at Firestone Tournament of Champions. Akron, Ohio, Riviera Lanes. You could hear a feather float right to the floor right now.
Here is a
$10,000
ball.
Let's watch this ball close, Ed. It's out. Hold it. Listen to this crowd, ladies and gentlemen. Jack Biondello, Houston, Texas. The first 300 game on ABC's Pro Bowlers Tour from Riviera Lane.
Jack's 300 game, in fact, all sanctioned 300 games are logged in this Hall of Fame computer. If you bowled one or your friend, come here to the museum. Punch up your names and you'll see it displayed on the screen. Our next perfect game was in 1969 on the Professional Bowlers Tour telecast, Johnny Gunther.
9 strikes in a row. The man and the ball. See what happens to those pins. This is the 10th frame.
10 in a row for Johnny Gunther. Very confident, too, Keith. He likes that angle. He's playing it direct, catching the track late. The ball is settling in the pocket. I think we could very well see him do it here, Keith.
Johnny Gunther has 10 strikes in a row. This is the 11th.
That's it, Keith. When you get that 11, the crowd really comes alive because they know that now this is it. There you see it. 11 big strikes in a row. And now for the all-important 12. $10,000 and a new Cougar, all on this ball.
There's nothing left to say. Let's just watch it.
There you see it. It tells the story. The crowd tells the story.
Nelson, as we entered the 70s, there were even more changes.
You're right, Chris. Bowling continued to grow in popularity, and bowling lanes were starting to wear too much. The lacquer surface we had in the 1950s and 60s just wouldn't hold up to this increased lineage. So along came polyurethane lane surfaces, much harder lane surfaces, and this changed the game quite a bit because the rubber bowling ball would no longer roll very smoothly on the polyurethane surface. So along came plastic bowling balls, and plastic bowling balls were very compatible with polyurethane lane surface, and of course, bowling continued to grow from there.
Well, Bo, did all these changes help you become the 1970 Bowler of the Year?
Well, the changes a little bit helped, Chris, but really I was a lacquer bowler. I was a down and in finesse bowler. In 1970, when I was Player of the Year, I won 4 tournaments, but they were all on lacquer surfaces. Everybody hadn't changed to polyurethane yet, so I was winning on lacquer, but still changing my game and molding it for the 70s. At that time, one of the leaders in bowling was Don Johnson. In the late 1960s, on lacquer surfaces, Don was a fairly good player on the Pro Tour. But as urethane lanes came in and plastic balls of the 70s, Johnson came to the forefront. Now, Don is best remembered for not the perfect 300, but for a near miss.
Two to go.
Chris, Don is so excited right now because that ball locked up the match.
Right.
He is the winner here at Firestone.
So he already has 25 grand. A boy that has finished second here in 67 and 68, fifth the other time. And here he has finally made it to the top.
Chris, what a way to finish our telecast.
But right now, he has won it. But the point is, 2 strikes, $10,000 from ABC. Let's watch. Ladies and gentlemen, he carefully looks up at the overhead sheet, and you know the story. He needs exactly 1 strike.
Chris, 25,000 in his pocket, 10,000 on this ball. Solid 10, Chris. Unbelievable.
And the very last ball, Don Johnson. A tremendous hit. There's Marianne Johnson.
Well, obviously, I'm probably remembered most because of the 299 game. Again, a lot of people feel sorry for me because I left the 10 pin. And it was probably the best ball I threw. That's why I got 9. That's what I tell everybody. And I'll never forget, one of the owners of the Go Palm, Sam Service, told me that night, he says, tomorrow you're going to bowl 12 balls. That's all you're going to throw is 12 balls. And he was right. That's all I threw was 12 balls.
Don Johnson, the Kokomo Kid, won 26 championships and bowled numerous 300 games. But he'll always be remembered by this reaction to his .299 victory at the Firestone Tournament of Champions.
Don Johnson was a dominant player in the early 70s. All the rest of the players had to make a change from the rubber ball. That meant learning a new grip. The plastic ball was slippery. Number 2, they had to learn to throw harder because the plastic ball hooked a lot more. Now, the manufacturers continued to improve on the bowling balls in the 1970s, making them more and more powerful. And nobody epitomized the power of the 1970s than Mark Roth.
Mark was Bowler of the Year 4 times, and with his power, we could always expect the impossible.
Roth for a 29-pin lead.
He teased it, but he leaves 7-10.
And he leaves the crowd buzzing. A good shot, apparently a good shot, hitting very light. Roth ripped the 5-pin, it went behind the 7. The normal pin action on that hit, the 5-pin goes over, takes out the 7. The 6 came around and hits the 10, but neither one of them happened that time. Roth is just going to go for 1.
He's open.
Can't believe it, David. First time ever, the 7-10 split. We've seen 300 games, we've seen everything. What a turnaround. In 19 years of being on television, here we have it. The one, the only, never before done on television. Watch Roth. Kicks the 10-pin out of the back in a crucial situation. Watch this out of the pit. There it goes.
What an unbelievable shot.
As the sport of bowling continued to grow, left-handers became a dominant force. They had a more equal lane condition to bowl on in the 1960s and 70s. 2 reasons. 1, the polyurethane lane surface, and number 2, precision oiling equipment that put down a uniform oiling pattern on the lanes. One of the dominant players of this era was Johnny Petraglia. Johnny won the Triple Crown. He won the 71 Firestone Tournament of Champions, the 77 U.S. Open, and the 81 PBA National Championship.
If he strikes here and gets 9 and a spare, he would shut out Gary Dickinson.
He's down on the deck, pounding it. Jubilation, not frustration, which the game of bowling can often force you into.
And John knows what the importance of that shot. Situation becomes this: 9 spare, he shuts out Dickinson. Strike, he shuts out Dickinson. If Petraglia would happen to get 8 and a spare, we have a possibility once again of a tie.
Cheered that one. Clenched fists both over his head. And Gary Dickinson, what a day. Yeah, well, 1-3, came from position number 5, but he's against that Tiger who shoots it down now. What a shot, 4 in a row, Finney. It's a 235, and you have a Triple Crown winner.
Another famous left-hander, Earl Anthony, dominant in the 70s and 80s. Like Don Carter, was Bowler of the Year 6 times, was the first bowler to earn $1 million in prize money, doing it in 1982 with his victory in Toledo at the PBA National Championship.
Chris, with a strike here, Earl Anthony can go into the $1 million bracket. If he doesn't strike, Charlie Tapp can still win the national championship.
In fact, he'd be 12,586 beyond.
Earl has struggled on this lane. He needs a strike to win.
Look at his reaction. You will seldom see that, but in this historical achievement for Earl Anthony at Imperial Lanes in the National Championship, wow.
He's the winner. He's going to be in the 220s even with a bad count.
Look at that. He is over the $1 million mark. 43 years old, his 38th victory, his 5th national championship. What a competitor. Earl in the 230s going against Charlie Tapp. And you were here at the richest tournament ever, the richest share to the winner of $38,000, but more important, he has set a pace as Susie gives him that ever-loving hug.
In Earl's career, he bowled many 300 games, but not one on television. The next 300 game on a live telecast Professional Bowlers Tour was by Jim Stefanich in 1974.
He needs 3.
We've only had 2 perfect games on national TV before. Jack Billondolillo in Houston, Texas, of Houston, Texas. That was in Akron in 1967 Tournament of Champions, and Johnny Gunther in San Jose in 1969. Maybe we're going to look at the 3rd.
But unquestionably, here's the biggest upcoming ball of the tournament, certainly for Jim Stefanich. The game is won, but this is 300 and a new Cougar automobile, all on a strike right here.
And the first show of the year. This is it for $10,000.
Oh, he pulled it up.
Jim Stefanich was a very serious player, but as time went on in the PBT, Some of the players took on a flair of showmanship and flamboyance.
Ernie Schlegel didn't let his flamboyant uniforms distract him while winning 5 PBA titles in the 1980s. Guppy Troop can be spotted by his pants, but there's nothing fishy about Guppy, as his 8 PBA championships will show. Marshall Holman's color comes from his heart. Holman let all his feelings show as he battled for a second U.S. Open title in 1985.
Oh, is he happy to win? A man known to show his emotions, whatever they are, from Jacksonville, Oregon. And is this a happy man?
Nelson, all the matches we've covered on television, we see examples of pressure, the mental aspect of the game. Let's go to 1987, the first frame of Pete McCordick's 300 game, and examine it. Oh, that looked to me like any other McCordick strike.
Well, I remember that day, Chris. 1987, Pete McCordick had been bowling very well in 1986. He came out in 87 in top shape, and he warmed up real well that day. He was playing a shot very confidently, and when we came on television, he threw that first frame like it was just as easy as could be, no pressure.
Now let's watch pressure as we continue our examination of Pete McCordick. He has strung together 9 in a row. He's up and shooting in the 10th frame. 9 in a row, needs 3 more.
Now he needs $2 and $100,000.
Pete McCordick, a great arm swing. He loses the ball slightly on the downswing. You see a ball only about 3 or 4 inches over the foul line, but direction is 95% of the sport, solid in the pocket. The last player to stand in this position I can remember, Chris, was Johnny Petraglia. He had 11 in a row before finishing with 298, and I asked John, what went through your mind? He says, I went blank. The pressure was so much. Look at Pete shaking. 10 in a row.
One more. Ladies and gentlemen, just one more, and that couple, the McCordicks of Houston, Texas, will be $100,000 richer.
Pete McCordick, bowling immortality.
Is that a sight, Bo?
Within his grasp, one more strike. 1974, Jim Stepnich was the last time.
All right, here it is. Right lane. We have it!
Nelson, you're the son of a famous bowler, and there's another St. Louis combination, Dick Weber and his son Pete. And we recall watching Pete for the first time on the PBT when he was 17 years of age.
Get the eyes on that kid. Squarely on the head pin, could have been a lot worse. He left a little tiny 310 split.
The power of young Weber. I tell you, he could loan his father some of this power. Good 5-step delivery, ideal positioning. Look at the high back swing. Left arm, look at that shoulder, all balanced. Now, tremendous turn at the bottom of the swing. Watch how close he comes to the foul line. Look at that left foot. It's sliding right up to within a ½ inch of the foul line.
You got it. Nice start. Pete Weber, 17 years old. And he swears up and down. He weighs 136 pounds. I'd love to have a scale.
Yes, it was obvious the talent was there. And once Petey got over stage fright and the butterflies flew away, he started to win, and he won big. In 1987, he won the Firestone. Followed the next year, 1988, a victory in the U.S. Open. He completed the Triple Crown with his victory in the PBA Nationals in 1989 in Toledo.
Well, at least worst he can do here is second, and he doesn't want that because it's a chance to be one of only 3 to win the U.S. Open, the Firestone, and this championship. There he was back in his tempo.
Peter is the tournament leader. He made the decision to finish on the left-hand lane in the clutch, and there he is right now. The best shot he has thrown so far in the match, there's no doubt. He knows they're all going down on this shot. And for Pete Weber to win the Triple Crown, he can take it all himself right now with 2 strikes. If he strikes in the 10th and 11th, he will shut out Dave Ferraro. 2 strikes, nothing Ferraro can do.
He's 4 lanes off to the left. Pete Weber, can you imagine in Florissant, Missouri, Bo, what's going on? Juanita and Dick Weber, his parents.
Well, the first man in almost a decade to have a chance to win the Triple Crown, Chris. Pete Weber stands on the approach, 11th frame. And really a lifetime of training and practice for Weber will be measured on this shot.
A 9-pin.
It is not over. Pete Weber will finish 221. Ferraro will need 2 strikes and 6 to become the PBA national champion.
As you pointed out, Bo, Dave would be the one that you might send up on the approach if you needed that.
The last time Ferraro was in this situation was in Cleveland, Ohio, against Brian Voss, the defending champion in this tournament. Needed 2 strikes, doubled in the 10th, defeated Voss 211 to 204. The same kind of results would bring him his first major title. Needs this strike.
Just perfect.
The only thing that went through Dave Ferraro's mind as he walked back off the approach was an eye-to-eye meet with his wife, Gloria. Everybody here knows the situation. The 6 pins are secondary. He'll get the 6. He must strike to become the national champion.
He has bowled a 221, Weber.
Pete Weber will wear the Triple Crown ring. One of only 3. He joins Billy Hardwick, Johnny Petraglia, a tough break, leaving the 6th in. David Ferraro. Pete Weber with his 12th championship, his 3rd major. He also won it again in 1991 without any problems. Well, almost no problems.
You know, it was just one of them things. I was standing there and I just got presented the trophy, and I just turned to the guy and I said, "Hey, is this thing solid on there?" And he said, "Yeah." So I didn't even think about it. I just lifted that trophy up and it went tumbling down and was like, oh my God, I'm in trouble again. But, you know, those things happen, and yes, I was very embarrassed about it.
Each week on the Professional Bowlers Tour, we see a great number of young stars, young winners.
Amleto Monticelli of Venezuela became the first foreign-born to be named Player of the Year. His fellow pros voted Amleto the honor in both 1989 and 1990, as he topped $200,000 in earnings both years. North Carolina is represented on the PBA Tour by Curtis Odom, whose bowling honors include 11 perfect games. He started on the PBA Tour at age 30. We'll see more of him in the future. Walter Ray Williams, Jr., Bowler of the Year in 1986, continues to be a consistent money winner. Williams also excels in another sport. Williams has won his share of National Horseshoe Championships. Friends kid him by saying, "If you want something underhanded done, see Walter Ray." Del Ballard Jr. throws a powerful strike ball. His titles include the United States Open, the Firestone, and the Masters. Ballard, a highly emotional athlete, appeared to have another victory in hand after he threw 2 clutch strikes against Pete Weber.
2 Tigers on the approaches here at Fairlane's Kings Point.
I've never seen Del Ballard so charged up, so aggressive. And 7 pins is no gimme. We've seen when the players seem to miss, they get 7 or less, so it's not over yet.
Even Pete Weber got up. Look at Pete.
Look at this,
Feeling
Chris.
terrible
Never.
for his opponent.
What has happened? Ballard needing 7 pins has thrown it in the channel and handed the title to Pete Weber. He has won when Ballard just needed 7 pins. What a turnaround.
Nobody paid much attention to Mike Miller on the Pro Tour until midway through the 1990 season, when he stopped using the thumb hole in his ball. The extra revolutions Miller obtained in this surprising move brought him nearly instant success. John Mazza gives promise of becoming one of the best left-handers.
That's not so popular with John Mazza, I'll assure you, the 710, or any bowler.
Mazza, who really threw a pretty good shot there, but when the lanes are breaking very sharply on the left side, remember there's no oil carry down. If you watch the first 2 matches, the righties benefited from a little oil carry down, the scores got better, but nothing on the left. Mazza in a little trouble.
Well, Mark Roth did it on our live telecast, and Bo, the man from Mount Clemens, he is thanking the Great Spirit. Wow, let's replay that baby.
Well, here it is. Mark Roth was the only one to do it before. A 7-10 split. Now look how it happens. When Roth did it, the ball injected the pin out. Now
here's Mark's shot.
Now here's how Mark did it. A little bit different.
Watch Mazza's reaction. Here it is. Here it is.
One of the brightest of the recent female stars is Donna Adamick, who won the Queen's Tournament in 1979 and 80 and was voted Bowler of the Year 4 straight times. Lisa Wagner dominated the Women's Pro Tour in the 80s. 3 times she was named Bowler of the Year, and Woman Bowler magazine named Wagner Bowler of the Decade.
Bowling history was made in 1988 when Bob Benoit became the 5th member of that elite group of professional bowlers who bowled 300 games on ABC's Professional Bowlers Tour telecast. Bob bowled his perfect game in Grand Prairie, Texas.
Bob Benoit being tested. I think the test is over. He's proven that he has the mettle to be a professional bowler. Now let's see if he can have bowling immortality. He's only 4 strikes away from his first title in a perfect game.
And now he needs 3 more.
Chris, this strike locks up the title. He cannot lose the title no matter what Roth does. 258 will not be enough to win. Now it's just a matter of can he take all the money. A possible $127,000 paycheck in his first appearance. 10th frame.
So solid that he needs only 2 more. Oh, the furrows in his brow are getting deeper, but I think his shot's even getting better if that's possible.
You're absolutely correct, Chris. A lot of people said to me, this young man will choke. I says, don't count out these tough young guys. There's probably been whipped around a schoolyard by some bully sometime, but put a bowling ball in his hand and look out. He's Superman. He's got 10 in a row.
And Susan, oh, the pressure on this sweet blonde. Tears in her eyes. And if this doesn't get your heart pumping, I doubt if there's much that will. One to go for 100,000 smackers.
This is where years of practice come into play. There's really not much you can think about. It's all natural ability. Keep your eyes on your target and hope the dear Lord wants you to have it.
Here it is.
Oh, yes!
It's difficult to believe that we're in our 4th decade of televising a professional bowlers tour. Greater longevity than the Ed Sullivan Show, and yes, even the Johnny Carson Show. We're proud of that. Each week, our talented men and women of ABC Sports transform a bowling establishment into a television studio. It's been our pleasure visiting the National Bowling Hall of Fame and Museum and sharing its story with you.
ABC Sports and Nutmeg Mills have come together to create ABC Sportswear. ABC Sportswear by Nutmeg. Now for the real sports fan, the best is here.